watch your animal, make sure he's not going to throw himself down. Now we're going to put the crupper on. I personally prefer a britchin any day. And if you'll notice, the other donkey that I was riding yesterday has a britchin. Some saddles are not rigged where you can put a britchin on them. But if at all possible, take your saddle down to the saddle shop and get it rigged where you can put a britchin on. Because the britchin is much stronger, it causes less chafing and less galling. And these little croupers like this are fine in this round pen where we're really not doing any stressful riding. But if you're going to be out in the brush and stuff, I suggest you get a britchin. But I'm going to show you how to put a crupper on a green donkey. And it's very important. What you want to do, let him know you're there. Keep your arm rested against his rump and reach down and get his tail. Pull the tail towards you. Slide the crupper over it. Go ahead and bring your crupper up. Fasten it into place. And make any adjustments that you have to. But it's always important when you first take a crupper on and off to always reach down and pull the tail around to you. Never stand directly behind a green animal, or even a broke one for that matter, and take your crupper on and off. I never unbuckle my croupers. I kind of look at that like unbuckling a bridle. I'm creating a bad habit that I don't need. Get your animal used to having his tail handled, reach up, pull the crupper off, or pull it on. But don't unbuckle it. It's wasted time and energy. We're going to get this donkey to drag in a tire here in a minute. We've just saddled him. We've got the crupper set. The first thing I'm going to do is warm him up at the saddle, because a young donkey feels a little claustrophobic. He's liable to try to sull up and throw himself down. So what I'm going to do is, with just the saddle on him, is drive him around the pen a few times, tighten his cinch, and then we're going to go ahead and put the tire on him and start that process of his training. tire, got the donkey lined out. We're going to ride him again for the second time. And again, we're going to ride him without a bridle, so there's nobody pulling on his mouth and hindering him while he's trying to learn to walk with the human being on his back. He's got enough to concentrate on with the saddle and the human and adjusting for the weight and things like that. He doesn't need to be concentrating on somebody pulling on his mouth. And so I'm going to put my bride up here and let her take him for a spin, see how well we're doing. What Yahuskin is doing here is basically sacking the donkey out while she's on top of him. Because you're going to be riding one of these days, going to be back out in the country, it's going to start raining or something. So what you want to do is to be able to take your coat on or off without spooking and running out from under you. The quicker you start something like this, the better he's going to be. If you wait 6 months down the road to take your coat off, start waving it around or to put a coat on, old donkey's liable to leave the country with you. But if you'll take and do this the first few times you ride him while you're in the round pen, that donkey's never going to be surprised whenever you pull your coat off, or if you have to get a blanket out, or a poncho, or any number of things. And so, this is just good safety measure right here. The sooner you do it, the better it'll be. We're going to bridle Cowboy for the first time. This is going to be the only time in his life he's ever had a bit. This bridle that we use, the one we like the best, that seems to work the best, is an Argentine snaffle. This is kind of a fancy version. They put a little stainless steel on the, a little German silver on the outside of it. But don't let the fancy fool you. It's nothing more than an Argentine snaffle. There's 4 or 5 different variations of this, and but the key to this is the jaws are loose, the mouthpiece swivels in the middle, and a donkey seems to work best in a snaffle type bit, whether it's a ring snaffle, an egg butt snaffle, a D-ring snaffle, but the snaffle bit seems to have been made for donkeys and mules. I've seen a lot of donkeys try to be ridden. I've seen folks try to ride them with a stiff mouthpiece bit or a curved bit or a half-breed or a Salinas mouthpiece, and a donkey never seems to carry it correctly. They're always gap-mouthed, they're always chewing on it, and most of the donkeys being ridden with those stiff mouthpiece bits, their tongue has usually been cut almost in 2. So that's why I recommend to anybody that rides a donkey, get you a snaffle mouthpiece bit of some kind. The shorter the cheek pieces, the better. These cheek pieces are only 6 or 6.5 inches long. If you get one with a 5-inch cheek piece or even a ring snaffle, but get you a snaffle bit to ride your donkey with. There's no use in risking cutting their tongue, because I don't care how well trained a donkey is, if one day you're going to be riding somewhere and you're going to have to reach down and pull him around. That's just the nature of the donkey, and when you do that with a stiff mouthpiece bit, you're going to end up cutting his tongue. So always try to ride your donkeys with a snaffle bit if at all possible. I've got a little piece of chain that goes across the nose. This just helps the donkey start responding and giving his nose to me a little quicker. You only want to ride with this chain a week and a half or 2 weeks at the most. It's not a cure-all, it's an aid. It just helps get through to the animal that he needs to put his nose to the inside of a circle. When you go to bridle your donkey, you want to come inside him, you want to brace his nose with this hand, reach over between his ears with the other hand, get your mouthpiece, stick your thumb in the corner of his mouth, and he opens it up. This donkey has never been bridled before, never had a bit in his mouth, and he automatically knew when I stuck my thumb in there to open his mouth up. We need to take the bit up just a little bit. I don't even like the mouthpiece on a snaffle bit to even wrinkle their lips. I just like it to be below there. The donkey will learn to pick it up and carry it by himself. You want it where it's not going to fall out. Again, whenever I bridled him, I was firm and careful with his ears. And if you notice, he let me slide the headstall right over. What we're going to do is we're going to tie this animal's head around to the cinch to teach him how to turn. You always want to keep in mind never to tie a donkey's head around for more than 10 minutes at a time. They're real thick-skinned. They're kind of numb, and if you tie them around much longer than that, they just learn to lay on it. They do not learn to give to it. You'll notice this bit, I moved my rein up into the dressage ring, so I can get more flex out of his neck and less leverage on the bottom. A lot of people that don't know, they mistake this ring right here for where the curb strap's supposed to be, and your curb strap don't need to be there. That's for an extra set of rein to teach an animal how to bend. We call it the dressage ring. So I'm going to go ahead and tie Cowboy's head around, and we'll start his learning process on turning. Okay, go ahead and keep filming. What we've done here is we've tied his head around past the brake, and he's going to learn to start giving to the bridle bit. I'm just going to leave him stand there for a few minutes and let him play with that by himself, and let him kind of work on it and figure on it a little bit, and let him get to sort of turning on his own. That way he doesn't panic and throw himself down or something. Already he's starting to bend his neck properly. He's starting to give to the bridle. He'll play with it a few more times. If you'll notice, his mouth is open. He's probably going to get his tongue over the top of the bit. This is nothing to worry about. In 2.5 weeks, he'll be packing the bridle correctly. A lot of people spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time trying to find the right bit that the animal likes. And by the time they find what they think is the right bit, all that's happened is the animal has learned to carry the bit properly. It's just a learning process they have to go through. Okay. We're going to help him out a little bit with the head stall. Just simply pull him around, teach him to start giving to the bridle. Let him learn how to turn. You have to push him around a little bit, that's all right. The whole thing is you want him to learn how to give to the bit. Notice this donkey's starting to catch on to what's happening. He's starting to turn on his own, give to the bridle. He's still chewing some. He's probably going to get his tongue over the bit, but we're not going to worry about that because, like I say, it'll be about 2.5 weeks before he learns to carry that bridle correctly. We're not going to go down to the tack store and buy a whole bunch of new bits trying to find one that he likes. He just simply needs to learn how to do it correctly, and it takes about 2.5 weeks to do that. It's okay to let him kind of play with the bit, push on it a little bit, pull on it a little bit, because you don't want him to panic over having the bridle and him having to give to the bridle rein. Pretty soon he'll start catching on and turning by himself, and that's what you want. With horses or mules, sometimes it's a lot more dramatic. With donkeys, it's real subtle, but you can see him start to give to the bit on his own. Always remember, you turn him one way, turn him the other. Don't ever leave him bitted up over about 10 minutes at a time. Otherwise he'll get numb to it and won't give to the bridle. Now I'm going to step to him a little bit, encourage him to turn around. Get him turning a little bit more on cue. I just simply tap him on the shoulder and I step back to give him enough room to turn around. You don't want to get in too close and get him bound up to where he can't move. You want to give him enough room to turn around. Like I say, do this about 10 minutes each way and call it good. This is our third day of training. We've warmed him up. We've warmed him up with the saddle. He was a little bit ouchy about it. He's realized we're serious. There was a little bit of hesitation about cinching the saddle up, but we immediately just moved him around the corral and got him loosened up, and then went ahead and tightened our cinch. Again, when you first saddle one of these green donkeys, you just want to pull your cinch up tight enough to hold your saddle on. And work him around a little bit and then step to him, tighten your cinch one more time. We've bitted his head around. He's given to the bridle. He's ready to rock and roll. We've bitted it both ways. And so now what we're going to do, this is the third day. We're going to raise the bar a little bit. We're going to start actually getting him to work off the bit some. And so by doing that, we're going to drive him. We're going to start teaching him to turn on command and get him used to packing a bit and turning off the bit. Leg aids are cute. They're fun. But the animal's got to be able to work off the bridle to be any good. We get asked all the time, people want to train their donkey with a halter or bosal, and I've seen people do that, but what they eventually do is learn they can get away from it, and the next thing you know, you hear about somebody getting scraped off on the clothesline or run through their neighbor's yard and getting drugged. So Always try to train your donkey with a bit, teach him how to drive with a bridle bit, and you'll have a much safer animal that way. And so what we're going to do, we just took our reins, tied them up out of the way. We've got our lines hooked up here. I'm going to show you. I do not have any snaps on my lines because most of the time I found those snaps break. So all we do, we just take the line up here, run it through the dressage ring on the Argentine snaffle. You're locked into place. Yeah, like that. Get her sucked down. We're just about ready to go to work. Always take your driving lines and run them through your stirrup. Keep your lines up off the ground, keep your donkey from stepping on them, and get you in a safer position to start training your animal. So we're going to go ahead and ask him to move out, and then I'll turn him on the fence. We've got him used to moving out away from us, going around the pen. We're going to follow him around, make sure he's okay with this. If he's not okay, we'll drive him around a couple more times, but he's going to do it. You don't really have an option in this. His training started, and it's time for him to go to work. Now when you get ready to turn, what you want to do is actually take your donkey, pull him out off the fence a little bit, and then turn him back into the fence. You want to set him up so he has room to turn. And by doing that, the way I just did it, you're teaching him to roll over his hocks and turn correctly instead of floundering around on his front feet. Back into it. Use your whip along his side to encourage him to unlock and go ahead and come around. You don't want him locked in a turn. You want him to learn to execute the turn and come out of it and walk away, and this way he doesn't get to sulling. You'll talk to your animal, click with your tongue, mooch with your mouth, up with your voice. Encourage him to keep going. He'll understand. It's not the words you're using, it's the sound and the way you're doing it, the tone of the sound. Encourages him to keep going. Get up. Again, this is the third day. We've raised the bar. We've actually got the animal working off the bit. We've warmed him up. We've saddled him. We've bitted his head around. We've drove him. And now, if you remember yesterday, we pulled the tire with him. We're going to pull the tire today. The only difference is we're going to drive him and pull the tire. And all this keeps adding up. You keep putting one step on top of another, and pretty soon you have a well-trained donkey. So we're going to drive him around, pull the tire. We might even use him in a day or two, put some other tires on him and drive him around here and kind of clear some of these rocks out of this driveway and stuff. Just drag the driveway, just give him something to do. And so anyway, we're going to go ahead and drive him and see how he's doing today. You'll notice we turned him, the rope came across these hocks behind his rump. It's very important you do that. You don't want him to do that the first time dragging calves to the fire someplace. If they got any spooks in them, you want to get them out right here in this round pen. Vary the program a little bit. Bring him out to the middle of the pen, off the fence, get him to turning and responding. Whoa! Yeah, this is my lovely wife, Yahuskin, and she's going to come back in and ride this donkey again. We're on the third day, and we haven't changed our program. We've bitted him around, we have drove him, we've drugged the tire, we've warmed him up, we've done all this stuff, but she's going to ride him. And if you'll keep in mind, every time you ride your animal in the round pen, to ride him without the bridle. Don't hinder him, don't get him to balking, don't get him to sulling up. Just let him walk out. If something happens and he kind of goes different direction than you want, don't panic. You're still in the round pen. You ain't going nowhere. As long as he's walking and moving